So yeah, I got some news about this bull market this week. And I'm not certain, but there's some writing on the wall. I've got 5 stocks for you to keep an eye out for this week. Quick disclaimer. So here's the 5 stocks we're looking at. Apple, Amazon, BABA, BIDU, and Twitter. So we're going to go ahead and start with Apple here. A couple things on the chart. I've got a stochastic slow indicator here. I chose this indicator for the analysis just because it's an indicator you can find on a lot of charting systems. You can also find this for free in a lot of places. So just so you can see the settings of the stochastic lengths here, it's just 14, 3, 3, and 1. And on the MACD, it's just a basic MACD indicator. By default, it comes 12, 26, 9 on most platforms. I'm using TradeStation, but you should be able to get these indicators on essentially any trading platform that you use. Here, I've just got a simple moving average, and I've got it set at 65 periods. So if it were a 1-minute chart, it'd be 65 minutes, and if it were a daily chart, as we're looking at right here on Apple, it's 65 days. So, okay, let's get started. So Apple, looking at Apple, today's date is the 20th. The stock market is closed tomorrow in the U.S. for Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday. So diving into what I'm looking at with Apple. Apple had an uptrend all the way into about November, and now we can see very clearly a downtrend. You can use the 65 period moving average line to figure out what the trend is really quickly. And what I'm saying is I'm not looking necessarily at where the price is relative to the moving average, but I'm looking at the direction of the moving average. See how this is sloping down? That helps indicate a downtrend. So the area of interest that I want to kind of focus in on is right here. If we look at the last few weeks of trading, we have this big gap right here at the first of the year. Apple fell 8%. And what I want to point out is that if we draw a resistance line here at the price in which Apple hit right before it fell, Apple is approaching that line again. So that's right around the 159 area. It's not quite there, but here on this past Friday, on the 18th, we got really close. And so I want to pay attention to this because, well, when I zoom out here, you can see that our stochastics are getting to an overbought area. So typically, as you can see here, when it's overbought, we'll see a sell-off. Back here, some overbought. Now, just because it's overbought doesn't mean there'll be a sell-off, but I have this on a watch list because it's really interesting. The market tends to have a memory, and this, in the very near-term past, Apple took a dive of 8%, overnight, essentially. And so investors remember those types of things. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens as Apple approaches that level again this week. Now, I'm not going to trade just based on the price touching that level. However, it will be interesting if we have our stochastics here that are overbought, and we have MACD that ends up turning sideways and then crossing down. We may have a trade signal to the downside. So here at around 159, and then we had a recent low of around 142. So there can be some opportunity here, and you may not want to, take advantage of it on any other chart other than, say, a daily chart. But certainly there is an opportunity here. So let's take a look at a 30-minute chart on Apple. Okay, so on the 30-minute chart, you can see that same line. It's been drawn here. So we have a little bit more room. And what I would say about this is that you need to decide if you're a trader, if you're going to trade in the direction of the trend or you're going to be a counter trend trader. So most traders fall into one bucket or the other, and I've rarely seen successful traders that do both. So you're either trading with the trend, okay, or you're trading against the trend looking for counter trend type of moves. The reason you need to pick one is because at any given point and at any given time in the markets, you can find a reason to go either way. So as I look at this chart, looking at the 65 period moving average line, I can see there's an uptrend. Okay, there's a very clear uptrend to me. All right, so we have a low here, and we have a low back here, and this is a higher low than this previous low. You can see the uptrending 65 period moving average line. I'm not very interested in trading up into this area 59 because I just mentioned it can be resistance. But some counter trend traders may look at this and say, okay, well, we've placed a new high here relative to this high, but our stochastics are not as strong as they were previously, and our MACD is crossing down. This is a bearish signal for a lot of short-term traders. So I would understand counter-trend traders may be very interested in trading Apple to the downside. Okay, so moving on. The next stock we have is Amazon. So Amazon, wow, I mean, this thing went from over $2,000 down to $1,300, and it's already bounced back up to around $1,700. But let's take a little closer look at some of the things I'm looking at here. See, previously, both times that our stochastics got overbought here, so we had this back in December, and then also in early November, we had really large slides. So the previous one went from 1775 all the way down to 1300, so huge move by anyone's standards there. One of the things I want to point out is that we have some key levels of resistance here. So if I take a look right here and just draw a line where we reversed previously, if you take a look at this right here, we hit this area of about 1772 and we reversed, then we hit it again and we reversed, but it also served as support back here. If we look in 2018 in July, that was an area of support, and previously it was an area of resistance. So there's 4 different times that this market has seen key reversals at this area. So this would be a really high level of interest right here for me. So that's a little bit higher up. But let's dig into some other things as well. If we take the Fibonacci price retracement, and we know that a lot of traders look at this, some of these indicators are self-fulfilling prophecies, if you ask me. People will ask, well, why do Fibonacci's work? Well, I think Fibonacci's work because so many people look at these. So many people are paying attention to these key levels, and that includes retail traders as well as institutional traders. So if we come in here and we draw these levels, at the key levels of like 61.8 or 76.4, we have nothing. There's no support. We've already broken those levels here higher. But it becomes very interesting if you actually draw the Fibonacci's from the all-time high of Amazon here back in August. If you draw this line, well, now we have something happening very interesting. I want you to pay attention to the 61.8 level. That's not the top line, but the one just below it. As I come down to the bottom of this wick to place my Fibonacci, the 61.8 level is literally overlapping with this resistance level. So that becomes very interesting. So we have what I would call a lamination of resistance. So we have an area that has served as support and resistance in the past, and it's also lining up with a key Fibonacci area. So that's one thing that's pretty interesting. Another thing that's interesting is if we just take and draw a horizontal line where the price is currently, there is some support here showing that this is a resistance area too. I'm not saying we won't blow right through it, but right here we held this as a support area previously, had a little bounce, and then went through it. But you can see where we wicked up and retested this. I say this all the time, but what once was support in the future will serve as resistance. So when you see a support line where buyers came in, once you break that support line, you go below it. Oftentimes the price will test it as resistance. So we definitely need to pay attention to that going forward. 65 period moving average line still has this as kind of a a downtrending type of move, but that looks to be changing a little bit. It's flattening out. Something else I wanted to point out here. If I go back and draw the support level, so if we took the high of Amazon and drew it down to let's just say the bottom here of this move, you can see right here at the 50% level we held a support. This candle, although it traded below, it closed above the 0 point here, so it wasn't able to break this area of support. It also traded right here at 50. So people are paying attention to this Fibonacci levels here on Amazon. If I come down real quickly, just for the sake of time, if I come down and look at the 30-minute chart really quick, what I can see is that we have an uptrend. I mean, definitely an uptrend here. That would make sense since the price has been going up. But again, I don't know. I could see if it digested a little bit and the charts came a little bit lower. Let's draw on these charts really quickly. So if I were to just come in and what I'm talking about seeing in the future is I want to see the price fall a little bit down here, something like this, put in a higher low than this low. This is the previous low. I want to see it put in a higher low than this low and begin to turn up. these indicators get to the oversold area, start to turn, these two lines come down, and eventually this line crosses up, okay, and then we have a trade that could potentially go to the upside, and that would be a signal for, you know, a bullish signal on Amazon, which could help take us into the areas that I mentioned on the daily chart as being resistance. Now, I would not be very bold in trading into these areas here. I'm not saying that Amazon will not be bullish in the long run, but I am saying that we need to be careful right here, and we need to let the institutional investors figure out what they're going to do at this point in time. Alright, so the next one is Alibaba Group. So just wanted to kind of run through this one. We're already getting a little long on time. So the big thing that stands out here is obviously we're in a downtrend. We have a series of lower highs here, 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 here. We put in a higher high here, however we're continuing to put in lower lows. So I wanted to really, you know, draw your attention to this. So we definitely have a double bottom situation here that would show some bullish activity here if we jumped up to, say, a weekly chart. So you can see that here on the weekly chart. Definitely low indicators. So the long-term outlook for this would definitely be up, but we may try to retest these lows again, or put in maybe not quite that low, but a reverse head and shoulders type of pattern here. So coming to the daily, there's a couple of things that stand out. So one of the first things that stands out is if you take and draw a trend line from the top of the move back here across recent highs. What you're coming up with is very close to where we currently are on the price. I'm going to zoom in on the price action here a little bit, so you can see that trend line connecting those tops there. Another thing, and I know I hound these Fibonacci retracement levels, but it's just that they're just so darn accurate a lot of the time. I'm going to resize this just so we can make sure and get it all in. Alright. So if I draw this Fibonacci's down to the bottom, you can see right here that 76.4 is right here where this trend line is. So we are really, really close to this. We also have an overbought situation here, and the MACD is still wide. Again, we can use this as a continuation indicator many times, and it doesn't necessarily turn on a dime. So if you go back here to this MACD, you can see it doesn't turn in a single day. Rather, it takes some time to turn. But what I'm saying is, as we watch this week, I'm going to be paying attention to this. So if we break right here and wick a little bit higher, and I see this MACD starting to go sideways and turn, I'm going to be looking for an opportunity to the downside. Now again, that's on the daily chart. If we break down here on the 30-minute chart, what we're going to see is it's going to be extremely bullish, because, well, that's what it's been doing here the last few weeks. But so we could continue to trade to the upside, but right now any short-term upside moves, I'd be a little hesitant of those until we can at least give a shallow pullback on a larger time frame. Okay, so I've heard it said many times that you should never have a favorite stock, and you should not have any type of attachment to anything in the stock market. But I'll tell you, I've had a lot of luck with BIDU in the past, and I really like it. It seems very dependable to me. I day trade it from time to time, and recently the trends on BIDU have been really, really predictable. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we draw a trend line here, I mean, look at this. This is where we currently are on the trend. I mean, and that is almost overlapping with our 65 period simple moving average line. Add to that an overbought situation here, and it's not hard to see why this is on the watch list this week. So if we zoom in just a little bit, I mean, look at this. So again, looking at this would certainly be a trend move here, but if we look, we're having an opportunity to possibly trade with the trend, a downtrend here on a daily chart, but also we have some evidence for down with a divergence type of situation here. So this is what I'm talking about. So we have the current slow K value of 86.71, and back here at a lower level we had a value of 88.95. So we're putting in some recent highs that are higher than this, but the indicator's not quite there. So it's interesting to look at there. So I'm really watching this week. As I said, I like to day trade this symbol as well. So looking at this, you can see where I've been able to make some money here in the uptrend. So I like to see overbought positions here crossing up. So I was able to enter here. I mean, that's a solid trade. Back here we have another entry for a solid trade, and then again at the latter part of last week, another opportunity to get in and make some money to the upside. So I really like BIDU. And when I say intraday, I mean I'll go all the way down to something, say like a 5-minute chart, and you can see lots of opportunities here. So this one doesn't show it quite as well, but you know, I trade this in both directions, calls and puts, so I make money going up and down. And so if you look at this during the day, on Friday it wasn't necessarily great to the upside, and that's just because it's starting to flatten out. So again, that's part of the case for looking at this daily position to the downside. So you may be able to capture this on something like an hourly chart. So switch over here to 60 minutes. Yeah, I'm looking at this type of thing, paying very close attention to it. So you know, we have some resistance levels here. That downtrend line is going to be coming across just like this. So you're going to be seeing it just like that. So yeah, we're uptrending on this time frame, but it would be really interesting to see what happens as we come down here, especially on this time frame as we break through this area of support here. You can see that the 65 period moving average line, as it so often does, is holding as an area of support. So here, and here. So if that price were to come down, really only about, what is that, about $5, which isn't a whole lot for this stock, you would see it breaking that uptrend line there. And so we have recent lows down here as low as 153, so 171 to 153. That's not a long shot. So very interesting. Keep your eyes out for this. Hopefully by Wednesday of this week, we'll see if it breaks through resistance and continues higher, or it starts to turn. And if it starts to turn, that's going to be a great opportunity. All right, so lastly we have Twitter. Notice here we're not starting with the daily chart on this analysis. I have a couple things I want to point out here on the weekly. So first and foremost, I mean, we do have what looks like a head and shoulders pattern forming. That would be something that would be bearish. However, I can still, make a good case for an up move here, as we definitely have an uptrending 65 period moving average line. What I want to point out specifically, though, is this very strong level of resistance, okay? Just for a recap, if the price is currently below the area that we're highlighting, that area will serve as resistance, okay? If it's above this area and coming down to test it, that's called support. All right, so here at this level, we can see this served as resistance here, here, and here, and here. So this has served as resistance 4 times. Now it broke through here for sure, and it came back and broke through again. But again, the market never forgets. And so if we come back, look at this area back here, you can see back in 2014, it was a resistance area. Sorry, that's support. It came down, tested it as support, bounced. The price came down, tested it as support 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, was not able to break it. Came back down. You see this big, huge red candle, tested it some more, finally came down. Remember, if support is broken, it will oftentimes be retested as resistance. You can see where the price came down below here. If we take a closer look at this, this will be interesting. See, it breaks through. Price comes up and touches it, can't break through, can't break through, can't break through. You see all of these candles try to retest this resistance, which was previously support. Finally, we have a candle here, wicks through, and when it comes back down, it's over with, and it's not going to retest that area for a long time. So this is a very interesting area, and I just moved it, but it's a very interesting area, and it's hovering right around $35.50. Okay, so if we come down here, we'll go ahead and move it down right about there. Okay, so if we come here on the daily chart, you can see recently, we've around these areas. Now, nothing we do is an exact science, okay, but this is an area of interest for sure. So we're currently at $33.27. That's a couple extra bucks. You say, man, that's what, like 6% higher? Yeah, it's true. But this stock can go 6%. It can make 6% in a matter of days. But there's a couple other things I want to point out. And so If we come here, take the most recent high, we come down here and we draw this nice little trend line, look where that puts us. Alright, we're looking at a trend line that's declining here. We have a sideways movement here. This stock has actually been channeling a little bit here. By channeling, what does that mean? Channeling just means that the stock's been range bound. It's been moving back and forth in a channel. So as we can see, it broke here, wanted to retest this line as resistance again, came down to support, tested this as resistance, came down to the 65 period moving average line, came back up, resistance, support. So we're stuck in this range right now. It's going to break out to one side or the other. However, right now we're touching this downtrend line and we're at an overbought situation. Again, I've showed you this before, even in this previous video. When we were overbought previously, right here, look what happened. Here we go, we fell. When we were overbought previously in this area, what happened? Oh, we fell. When we were overbought prior to that, right here, what happened? Oh, we fell. Okay, this is not rocket science. Overbought here, what eventually happened? We fell. Overbought here, what happened? We fell. Okay, so it's not hard to see what happens when the stochastics get overbought like this. So we're overbought. It's time. But again, there is no exact science. So does it mean that because we're overbought we're going to fall? Absolutely not. We only place trades whenever we have a higher probability of winning than losing, but that's all it'll ever be. It's a probability, alright? I'll get into risk management and things like that later. But the whole point is, nothing is exact, but it's all about what can you put on your side of the ledger before you hit enter on a trade. And, I can make a strong case for this symbol right here. I like it, and that's why it's on my watch list this week. Let's go down to a 60-minute chart. 60-minute chart, we're going to see something similar. That trend line didn't carry over. I can draw another one. That trend line's going to come in just like this, and so that's what we're looking at. So there's an opportunity to trade to the downside, but again, that's a counter trend move here on the 60-minute chart. So I may want to come up here to say like a 4-hour chart, which is a 240. Again, that's probably going to be uptrending as well, but a little bit more time here for you. Well, the computer's acting up, going a little slow, but you get my point. Okay, we're downtrending. We have an opportunity to trade to the downside this week. I may take it, but again, I'm going to be watching this MACD. I want to see it flatten out. I want to see it turn to the downside. Alright, so those are my 5 stock tips for this week. Those are my picks. I'm watching them. I am not jumping in these trades on Tuesday morning at 9:30. I need to see them go sideways. I want to see them pull back. Why am I so bearish? I made a video on this past Friday on the 18th where I talked about where the market currently was, how there's a lot of evidence for a down move in the coming week. So if that manifests, if that happens, here's 5 stocks that are set up that you can trade in that move. If you don't trade the Qs or the SPY, themselves, or an ETF derived from the Dow, the DIA is a great one. Alright, well, this video's gone a little bit long. Hope you have a good week. Happy trading. Good luck.